Dog by Asen_Grayson and AO3 Time. Jason is exhausted and cold, and his heart won't stop hammering in his ears. The knees of his too short jeans are not helping his misery, because the ground he's kneeling on is still wet from the freezing rain this morning. The same rain that made the ever-present rot in Crime Alley smell utterly putrid. Dog does not seem to be aware of how depressing the situation is, even though it was only a few minutes ago that he was whining for food and unintentionally talking Jason into the stupidest dog-damn decision of his life. He's panting happily now and keeps trying to engage Jason's attention with a play bow. Jason really just wants to be done with this. The tires feel a lot less like a worthy risk now that they're heavy in his hands and so bulky to move. The idea of getting caught by Batman, which seemed unlikely when he'd been planning this idiotic endeavor, felt inevitable now. At least, if the dread in his gut and the goosebumps on his neck were anything to tell by. But the money he could get for these tires is just too damn hard to pass up. Dog has been whining and miserable and not sleeping well at all these days because he's constantly irritated, if not in pain, with the fleas that have taken up permanent residence in his fur. Jason had felt the itching on his own scalp and pain on his arms after nights of hugging Dog, and he wouldn't wish it on his worst enemy, let alone his best friend. It doesn't help that neither he nor Dog have been eating much lately. It's been almost a week since he actually bought a meal. Mostly, he's just been snagging leftovers and dumpster diving. His arm's been hurting for a week after the owner of the diner on 5th grabbed him when he tried to snatch leftovers from the paying customers on their fancy outdoor patio. He hopes the restaurant owner's shin is hurting worse with the kick that had freed Jason from the man's grasp. So yeah, he and Dog needed money. Bad. There may be worse ideas for getting cash than boosting tires, but going after Batman's car is still downright stupid. While Jason struggles, Dog pants happily, tongue lolling and drool dripping all over the place. "Don't try to look innocent," Jason gripes at his companion, clenching his chapped hands around the tire iron tighter and leaning his weight harder and harder until... There. Finally. The last lug nut of the fucking left rear tire. Right rear and left front had been no problem, but left rear had to be stubborn as hell. Dog, despite Jason's command, continues looking innocent. Jason had managed, through the power of persistence, bits of beef jerky, and library books on dog training, to teach Dog to sit, stay, and run from danger. Shake, too, on a really good day. But no power in the universe could make Dog compliant. Which, to be fair, was probably true of Jason as well. What he did not train Dog to do, however, was paw at his back and make that weird sound dogs make when they're trying to bark while also staying quiet. Wow, wow. The sound might not be loud from a normal distance, but with Dog close enough for Jason to feel hot, smelly breath on his ear, it's impossible to focus on the task at hand. Jason turns, balanced on the balls of his feet, to give Dog a scathing, "Be quiet" look. His heart stops. Standing not 5 feet away is the very last person Jason would ever want to see at this moment. The Batman. In his shock, the tire iron clatters to the ground far too noisily. Jason falls back onto his ass, barely catching himself on his elbows in time to avoid smacking his skull into the pavement. The black-clad figure looms above him, backlit by the lone yellow streetlight. He's taller than anybody Jason knows, and looks about twice as wide. The man's bicep is thicker than Jason's head, for fuck's sake, and the cape blends with the darkness to the point where he can't tell where it ends and the shadows start. The alarms are going off in Jason's brain, screaming, "Threat! Get away!" But Dog seems none the wiser. Instead of backing up, like a sensible creature would, the little mutt takes a step towards the vigilante. Batman's hand twitches, like maybe he's reaching for one of those sharp bad things that he maims people with, and it spurs Jason into action. He leaps forward, snagging Dog's collar and yanking him back. The animal yelps in surprise, but follows as Jason snatches up the tire iron and starts to back away. "Who are you?" Batman demands in his deep, growly voice. Jason uses his hip to push Dog back, keeping himself between his dumbass best friend and the towering threat. He holds the long piece of metal up, an implicit promise of violence should Batman come any closer. "What were you doing to my car?" Jason doesn't respond, just tightens his grip on the tire iron. "Come here," Batman orders, and Jason takes another step back. He feels his elbow hit the brick wall behind him, and the level of adrenaline flooding his system somehow increases. Dog whines. A brilliant, terrible plan forms in his brain. It's not complicated at all. Just swing and run. Before he can think it through, before he loses his nerve, fueled by desperation and terror, he charges forward, hefting the tire iron, twisting his whole body to throw as much force into it as possible. Jason slams the tool into Batman's side. Here, his plan fails. After swinging so hard at a target so solid, Jason's hands can't keep their grip on the iron. All that's left is a phantom burn in his empty grasp, and a split-open palm for his troubles. The heavy hunk of metal clatters to the ground. Batman does not, as he predicted, collapse from the force of the blow. In fact, he barely shifts. The man takes a single step backwards. Doing so, he completely blocks their exit. Dog might have been able to slip between the vigilante's legs, were it not for that damn cape. But when Jason balks, the dog follows his retreat. He's back to square one, his back against the wall, and this time, he doesn't have a weapon. Dog watches him, still panting and doggy grinning like this is some kind of game. Batman continues to loom over them, and Jason wants more than anything to shove the giant out of the way. He's screwed enough as it is. Frantic, he racks his brain for an alternative exit, but comes up empty-handed. With the car in the dumpster, the dead-end alleyway is practically claustrophobic. Batman stands in the space between the two, effectively cutting off any chance of escape. He is well and truly fucked. Batman starts to lean over towards Jason and Dog, then makes the tiniest gasp and adjusts his stance, fingers twitching towards his ribs unconsciously. Right where Jason slammed a tire iron into the man barely 30 seconds ago. Suddenly, the consequences of his actions are no longer hypothetical. When he'd still been able to go to school, Jason used to tip his chair back as far as he could, no matter how many times his teachers told the class to keep all 6 legs on the floor. Usually it was fine, but sometimes he'd push his luck and have to scramble to find his balance again, or fall back completely. There was always that moment when his stomach would drop and the realization would hit that there was no avoiding the fall. Jason feels that now, the moment of clarity that seems far too quiet to account for its impact. This isn't going to be a close call. This isn't going to end with Jason and Dog panting their way down from an adrenaline high and licking their wounds, grateful that their luck held out one more day. There isn't a way out. Jason ran headfirst into a hopeless fight, and now Batman, who doesn't flinch at fighting a dozen full-grown men, is hurt enough to be mad, but not hurt enough to be slowed, and Jason is cornered. At this point, Batman can do whatever he wants, and nothing Jason does is going to save him. The best he can hope for is that Batman will treat him like most car thieves and beat him senseless, then leave him zip-tied for the cops. Considering he'd tried to steal from Batman personally, it would probably be much worse. Jason blanches as the implications slap him across the face, and he begins to tremble. Dog licks his hand. Jason can barely feel it between the cold and the fear and the stripe of fire the tire iron had left across his palm. In the back of his terrified brain, he does appreciate that even in such a dire situation, his best friend attempts to comfort him. Just a moment later, all of that appreciation is overridden by bewildered irritation. Dog trots away from Jason and the protection he's attempting to provide, and instead walks directly into the lion's den. The animal waltzes right up to the person that could easily hurt or kill him and starts sniffing at his boot. He never took his dog for a bootlicker. Batman's leg tenses like he's going to move, knee bending slightly, the same way that bastard on Oak Street's knee had bent before he brutally kicked the air where Dog had been just a second before, after he caught Jason stealing from his plum tree. The next thing Jason does is stupid, but he ran out of smart options at the first loose lug nut. He lunges for his friend, and manages to shove Dog behind him before Batman decides to kick. Okay, I'll do whatever you want, just don't hurt him. The words leave his mouth, without thought, but they don't come out smoothly. Jason shakes down into his bones, but his hands remain steady as he grips the worn collar around Dog's neck, all pain forgotten. What? Batman's response can't reasonably be called a question. It's just an expression of pure rage, somehow laced with more power in a single spoken word than in any of the strings of curses Willis had ever screamed. Jason presses his shoulder against the rough brick in a pointless subconscious effort to get further away from the man he'd undoubtedly pissed the hell off. I just want to let the dog go, okay? He didn't do nothing, and he won't bite. I promise. Batman is silent. He begins to panic. Just a little. No doubt the vigilante is already going to make Jason regret being born, but maybe begging for this mercy was enough to make him angrier? He wouldn't be able to live with himself if Dog got hurt. I swear I'll... Jason nearly chokes on the words he swore he'd never say again. I'll be good. Batman stares at him for several seconds, and Jason grips Dog's collar just a little tighter as he fights the instinct to hug his companion close. No, the man states with an air of finality. Jason doesn't know if Batman is saying he won't let Dog go, or that he doesn't believe Jason will be good, or something else entirely. All he knows is that Dog was there when he got beat to shit for the $20 he'd found at the park. Stroking Dog's fur that night had been a distraction from the bruises all over. Dog was there when Jason got a trace of Ivy's pollen on his arm, and hugging Dog wasn't enough to stop the itching and burning, but it was a hell of a lot safer than finding a person. Dog was there when he'd found a woman passed out with track marks on her arms behind a dumpster, and he stayed up all night shaking and missing his mom while Dog licked his face and hands to pull him back to the moment. He doesn't know what more he has to sacrifice, but he does know one thing for sure. Jason owes Dog. Dog is not going to get hurt because of his fuck-up. Jason swallows, breathes in, and breathes out. What do you want? He curses himself for the tremble in his voice. Dog twists his neck around to lick at Jason's arm again, because it doesn't matter how many scrapes this puppy has gotten him into. He really is a good boy. You should come with me, Batman says, and his voice is deeper than Willis's ever was. The man takes a step forward, holds out a hand as black as starless space, and Jason can't help the minute flinch back. He hopes Batman doesn't take it as a sign of weakness like his father used to. I want to take you somewhere safe. Jason knows what that means. Sure, he said he'd be good for Batman, but that was if the vigilante let Dog go. It doesn't matter if the situation is hopeless. If he can't even ensure that Dog is safe, Jason will go down swinging. He tugs on Dog's collar twice, and then bolts. Dog goes with him, surging ahead and easily slipping past Batman. Jason is not so lucky. The same hand which reached out to him now snags the hood of Jason's sweatshirt. In an instant, Batman halts Jason's momentum completely and yanks him back a step. The vigilante's other gauntlet gripped Jason's arm firmly, and even though he'd known running was a long shot, he's still terrified to be trapped. Dog, sweet, stupid Dog, stops at the mouth of the alley, looking back at him. His tail stops wagging. The fur on his back bristles, and his teeth flash white and shiny in the dark. No! Dog, being dog, does not listen. Instead, the mutt leaps forward and begins to bark furiously at Batman. He snaps at the massive man's ankles, getting well within kicking range. Batman can probably kick pretty hard. Let me go, Jason begs, trying desperately to get between Batman's foot and his friend's underfed belly, but there's not enough slack in the man's grip for Jason to move even half a step. Batman looks at him. Slowly, he releases his hold on Jason's hood, but the vigilante doesn't even loosen the iron grip on his elbow, probably intending to keep him close. His next move is a mystery, though. Batman crouches down, even slower, then reaches for one of his weird little pouches. In the pouch, there are apparently dog treats. Of course, just what every costume crime fighter needs. Weapons to maim criminals, smoke bombs to distract villains, and dog treats to make friends with any pets they happen to meet on their fucking warpath. What even is this man's life? The man extends a black-gloved hand, still slow and careful, to present a treat. Dog, being dog, doesn't hesitate to take it. Dog doesn't fight back at all when Batman reaches out and inspects the tag on Dog's collar, too busy gobbling the treat down. Jason could kick himself. The collar had been a must to keep Dog out of trouble with animal control, but there was no good reason why Jason had colored a bone-shaped piece of cardboard red and written Jason's dog on it in his best attempt at a fancy-looking script. Maybe a part of him just really wanted Dog to have something that was nice, even if Jason couldn't buy anything decent. His mom used to say that the navy bean soup she'd throw together for $1.28 on bad weeks was made with love. Jason loved Dog. A lot. Are you Jason? Batman demands. At this point, it's probably stupid to lie, even though he hates when grown men he doesn't know call him by the same name his friends do. The same name his mom had. Jason closes his eyes for a second too long to be a blink and not a wince. He nods. You have a good dog here. Batman is letting Dog lick crumbs from his glove, and Dog's tail is wagging, as if making up for lost time that was squandered trying to play guard dog. Batman pulls out another treat, smiling at Dog with a fondness that felt out of place underneath his intimidating cowl. The second treat is consumed in a blink. He's hungry, isn't he? Jason feels hot in his chest and stomach with shame. He's been trying to keep Dog fed, but it's hard. Even on nights where Jason feels dizzy from hunger, he gives Dog at least half of everything. Sometimes he just doesn't eat at all. But Dog isn't small anymore, and he needs a lot, and finding food that's safe is an extra hurdle that Jason can't always jump. As it is, he's towing the line with the things he eats. You know, Batman says quietly, in a voice that's not nearly as graveled as it was before. Pets, like all living things, need food, good water, and a home. There's a significance to the words, and Jason feels the shame intensify. They need people to care for them, provide for them. They need to know that someone's looking out for them and is going to keep them safe. What Batman is describing isn't lavish treats or overpriced novelty toys. It's just the security and comfort that any pet deserves. Jason has seen plenty of adults be kind to pets, and plenty of adults be cruel to animals, but almost everyone fed their pets. Even jackasses didn't make their pets survive on scraps, getting burrs stuck in their grimy fur, which is only dry on a good day, getting eaten alive by fleas and never getting to go to the vet. Even his neighbor when he was little, who used to constantly spray her cat with a spray bottle, still got her cat to the vet. And here's Jason, treating Dog worse than that. When he found Dog, Jason had told himself that it was okay, that he didn't really have a home or that much food or anything nice, because Dog didn't have any other options. The animal shelters in Gotham are always packed to bursting, and pit bull mixes never did well there to begin with. That justification feels flimsier in his head when he sees the gentle pet Batman gives to Dog's head. Jason makes a decision then, for Dog's sake. He's no less scared, knowing that it's for his only friend in the world, but he's going to do it. For Dog. He steels his resolve. Squaring his shoulders and clenching his fists at his sides, he speaks in a wavering voice. After you beat me, could you please take care of him? When Batman twitches, Jason pushes the rest of the words out in a rush. His name is Dog, and he likes peanut butter, and he's a good boy. What? Batman recoils, like the very idea disgusts him, and the grip on Jason's arm slacks just enough for the man to lean away, as if Jason disgusts him too. Please, Jason begs. He sniffles, and feels even more pathetic for crying about sending his dog to a safe home. Once Batman's through with him, he'll be in no shape to give Dog even the shitty level of care he's managed so far. Jason forces himself to speak past the lump in his throat, and to finally stop hiding from the truth, even though the truth is devastating to face. He deserves better. Once the words are spoken, the spell breaks, and the reality of the life Jason has given Dog stares Jason down with condemnation. The judgment strikes him harder than any blow Batman's justice could ever deliver. Batman studies Jason, almost at eye level, even though the giant is still crouched low, with tension in his face that Jason can't interpret. Then he lets go of Jason's arm. Jason has neither the energy nor the deluded optimism needed to make another break for it, but he still slumps in relief to have the illusion of freedom for just a moment. Jason, lad. So do you. Batman's voice is so gentle that Jason realizes all at once how rigid his shoulders are, so wound up they could almost touch his ears, and his back aches with the tension. His mind stumbles, directionless, in the chasm between what he was expecting and what just happened, unable to find a foothold. Batman looks at him with conviction in something, and Jason doesn't know what. I'm not going to beat you, son. Not now. Not ever. The words aren't loud, but they're steady, and Batman's low growl isn't making the man's lips curl into a sneer the way they usually do. The words hold a weight too substantial to be the flippant lies meant to trap naive children, but they're too tender, too compassionate to be true. But I'm a thief, and I hit you, and you hate criminals. Jason doesn't know why he's reminding Batman of his offenses, but he can't help it. The hope in Jason's chest when he hears Batman's voice is more treacherous than any fist or weapon the man could throw at him. He's so scared. He doesn't want to be hurt. He doesn't want to lose Dog. He just wants both of them to be safe. He just wants them to be safe. Jason, the Batman who makes hardened criminals tremble, is speaking so slowly, like the only thing that matters right now in the whole city is that Jason hears his words, and that he understands the pledge that lies underneath them. You are a child in a very terrible situation, and you are clearly doing the best that you can. All I want is to make sure you and Dog here are safe and happy. Please, will you let me help you? Jason's not an idiot, and he knows that people don't help kids for free. He knows that he hit Batman and stole from him and gave the man every reason in the world to make him pay. Hell, he knows that plenty of adults don't even need a reason. Whatever help Batman's offering, it can't be nearly as good as it sounds. But it sounds like kindness and safety, and finally catching a fucking break. It sounds like the shelter of his mom's smiles. It sounds like a moment to just rest. Jason's been constantly fighting threat after threat after threat just to keep him and Dog alive, and in the second of stillness he's feeling right now, returning to that fight feels like an insurmountable task. Maybe the stillness he's feeling right now is just the eye of the storm, but the possibility of just a moment of reprieve isn't something he can turn his head away from right now, no matter how foolish a decision believing adults has always proven itself to be. After looming terror and crushing grief, it's finally relief that pushes the tears that have been stinging his eyes to trail down his cheeks. Jason nods. Please, help me. Alright, so I have to admit, I just love this story. It is so cute, and I cannot stop picturing little baby Jason and his dog. It makes me so happy. So in the author's notes, then there's this little play-by-play that I also think is pretty funny. So, Bruce, I will talk about how the dog deserves a safe home, and that will help this kid understand that he also deserves better. Jason, you're right. After you beat the shit out of me, can you help my dog? Bruce, Mayday! Mayday! I just love it so much. There is a second part to this that I would love to podfic. So I think that it's not quite fully updated yet, but it's from Bruce's point of view, and oh boy, it is hilarious. I love it. So that's definitely on the docket. So keep an eye out for that whenever I get around to it. I am in the middle of classes and school, and so, you know, it's a hobby. Takes a backseat when stuff gets crazy, but it's a lot of fun, and I really enjoy doing this and sharing it with you guys, and it makes me excited to know that you also enjoy the stories that I found and the stories that I enjoy, and make sure to go and give some love to these original authors. Link is in the description below, as always. So thanks for embarking on this journey with me, and I will see you later, sightseers. Bye-bye!